Welcome to the Across the Bar podcast, where we talk about why today's headlines are important to your success at work. My name is Peter Rahbar, and I'm your first call for legal issues.
And I'm Laura Brounstein, your first call for comms issues. Hi, Peter.
Hey, Laura. Here we are in September. I think it's our first rainy day in September in New York. It's been such a beautiful
You're
month.
right.
Here
You're
we are.
right. It is a very gray day. And I feel like that everybody feels a little gray at the moment. What do you think?
It's a gray day and a heavy time.
Yes, and I mean, yeah.
Is what you're trying to say, I think.
Yes.
So we'll probably talk about some of the reasons why it's such
Well,
a heavy time. Is that true?
I want to talk about a bunch of stuff, but first, obviously the tragic killing of Charlie Kirk on a campus in Utah last week is hideous and heinous and tragic, no matter what anybody agrees with or disagrees that he had to say. It's just deeply frightening. And I think Peter and I agree that what's also frightening are the ripple effects we're seeing now. Kind of people calling for others to be fired or people posting just terrible things that are very hurtful to someone they may work with closely or no. I guess, Peter, I'd love to kind of just talk about what the importance of companies having a policy about social media.
Sure. And obviously, I'll echo what you said. We both condemn violence as an answer to anything. And certainly, this was a very tragic and scary and shocking, event. And so we're not going to talk about the politics of this situation because obviously it's been very politicized. But what we've seen in the week or so since this has happened is, at least one aspect of what we've seen is people being fired or suspended from their jobs for posts related to this incident and to Charlie Kirk specifically. I have a couple things to say about that. I mean, we've talked about social media and the consequences of posting on social media before on our podcast. First, I'll start at the employer level and from the employer angle. If you have a policy, it's time to revisit it. It should be constantly revisited as new forms of media, as the world changes.
And even if you don't revisit it, as your comms person, I will say, remind everybody what it is.
Right.
Remind everyone that you have one, even if you don't have a minute to change it. Say, we're reviewing it, but just want to send out what we've got right now.
Right. So look at your social media policies, look at your press policies, look at your workplace conduct policies as they relate to speech. They should be constantly evaluated as presidents change, as technology changes. You should constantly be reevaluating these things. You should never put a policy like this just in a book and a handbook and let it live forever without reexamination.
That's a good thing that people should always just think of.
And if you don't have one, you should really be thinking pretty seriously about it because the last week, what's happened over the past week, has real potential to continue for some time. And there's going to be employees who are going to be saying things either to each other or on their social media channels. And you need a clear roadmap on how to deal with those situations and deal with those situations fairly in a balanced manner. And most importantly, in a consistent manner. So you can't be accused.
Most important.
Yeah, so you can't be accused of favoring one side of it or another, or potentially find yourself in a discrimination type situation. So those are two tips for employers, I would say right off the bat. For employees, I would again remind you, as we've said repeatedly on this podcast, you do not have a right to free speech at work or related to work, with very few exceptions. If you're a public school teacher or a public employee, different story. But if you're working in the private sector, you do not have free speech rights at work. Your employer has the right to make rules. They have a right to fire you. Again, if they're doing it consistently.
But you know what? As the employer, I would also say do people a solid and remind everyone the policy. And part of that reminder should be remember Slack is public. Just remind people that anything they're slacking is visible to your boss.
Absolutely. I mean, you should definitely, and I'm really glad you mentioned that because you're hiring new people all the time, or people read policies at the outset and don't read them again. You should, in times like these, make make statements to your employees, reminding them of the rules, and that could help you avoid problems proactively. And that's a really good practice to engage in that. And I'm sure you've drafted a lot of those statements, and I've probably edited a lot of those statements
Same, back and forth.
in the past.
Yep.
Yeah,
Um,
and basically the usual response for someone who gets fired or otherwise disciplined for a statement on social media is that this is my personal social media. In this day and age, that's very hard to make that argument, and particularly
well,
if
what
you're doing.
about? I have a question.
Sure.
So, say, we have both worked, obviously, as well covered in many media companies.
Hmm.
And if I was an editor at a women's magazine at a company, and I am being paid to have strong political opinions that I'm writing about, I may post them and that may piss people off. But like sometimes your job is to have opinions. I know that's a niche case, but I know you've been involved in cases like that. How does that work?
So I'd say a couple things. I mean, you'd want to look at, if you were that person, you would want to know the policies because you're probably in charge of enforcing them also. You'd want to know your own contract language because people who are public personalities
Mhm.
have very specific language in their employment agreements. And by the way, employers,
Oh,
you
I
should
didn't know
look.
that. See, this is
Yeah,
interesting. Tell me more.
yeah, yeah. Employers, you should look at it and make sure they're updated too. But they have provisions that say you can't make statements that put the company in a negative light or could put us in a situation where that there's damage to our
I
reputation.
need to start making sure my consulting contracts don't have anything like that in them.
Right. You need to be free to say whatever you want, obviously.
Yeah.
But if you're public facing, you're going to have something like that in your contract. And some of the cases we saw this week of people being fired, news anchors and other public personalities, they definitely have clauses like that. And news anchors in particular, they're expected to be objective, especially local news anchors. So to the extent they're taking a side on an issue that they're going to cover, that's a big problem for objectivity and also the contract. But I would say if you're in that position and you're about to say something you're also expected to use good judgment. So if you're about to say something that's potentially inflammatory or toes the line or maybe crosses the line, it's probably a good practice to run it by your comms person and make sure, hey, everybody's on board.
Yeah, that's good
Sometimes when
advice.
you're in the heat of the moment, you're not going to know what
Well,
the
I
line
think,
is.
again, unless you are one of a small handful of people that rapid fire tweeting is part of your job or livelihood, and having, worked on campaigns, I know people whose job that was. But unless that's you, take a beat before you tweet or post something. Just take a beat.
Yeah.
Like, if you, give yourself a personal rule that you save everything to draft for 5 minutes before you post it at the least. You never post something directly. That is a good rule.
Yeah. Five. So you're saying 5 minutes is your
I
beat.
mean,
I was thinking a little longer than that, but
it could
okay.
be depending on the situation. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
just
I mean, I mean, look,
always create a buffer.
a lot of public figures sort of rushed out with statements because in these moments, people feel like, everyone's looking for them to make a statement. Newsflash, not everyone is. Okay. And they said some things they probably regret in
Yep.
retrospect, and you can't take them back, frankly.
So
So,
in
but
this kind of, here's a question. A year or so ago, I feel like it would go without saying that if you were sending something like that out, you would also say, mental health is a serious issue. We know this weighs on people. If you feel that you need some mental health support, we have a lot with our health plan, and look at the resources at this link or see your supervisor, something like that.
yes,
But is that too woke now?
no, this is not a woke issue at all. I mean, this is something that employers should definitely be mindful of this week, last week, frankly, and going forward as the public debate intensifies and as people are already facing a lot of stress in their lives. And as an employer, you may say, well, what happened to Charlie Kirk is not my fault, and what the president says about it is not my fault, and the fighting that people are having about it is not my fault. So why should I care? Well, people carry their stress into work
Yeah.
and it impacts their interpersonal relationships and it impacts their productivity. So, employers have a very hard time dealing with mental health issues related to their employees. And over the
Mhm.
past couple of years, there's been a lot of advances in helping employers deal with that. And I think it's absolutely something they should be mindful of in the coming weeks and immediately if they're not already taking steps to address it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, let's leave this dark topic to the side now that we
Yeah.
have discussed it and talk about the fact that did you know that people are doing like business meetups and meetings and retreats now at like cold plunge sauna places?
Yeah, I know about it, but a lot of people don't know about it. In fact, I was having breakfast with a CEO of a private equity firm last week, and we walked by one of these places, and I pointed it out to him, Othership, and I said, this is a pretty big trend. It's a group social sauna space. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And then the next day there was an article in the Wall Street Journal about it. And
Did you
yeah,
send it to him?
He sent it to me,
Oh.
actually. So the conversation resonated with him, I think. But yeah, there's certainly obviously a big trend of wellness and focus on wellness in society. And it's a massive business, obviously.
And I think people getting together to do things other than drink is good.
Right.
But a friend of mine who is a very successful founder recently posted on LinkedIn that suddenly she's getting invited to all of these founder situations, like meetups, founder meetups or meetings, whatever. And they are cold plunge or sauna situations. And she's like, I don't want to be in my bathing suit when I network, which I really feel.
Right.
I don't want to network in my bathing
I
suit.
totally understand it. I think it's a little weird to have business meetings in saunas where people are half naked. I certainly don't advocate it. Now, if you happen to be there voluntarily and make a connection with someone and network, I mean, certainly a lot of that is happening, and these private clubs are opening up. In fact, a good friend of mine is opening one called Lore in New York City. Little plug there. But yeah, so
where's
people
that
are going
one?
It's in, I believe it's in NoHo, and it's going to be very fancy and nice. And
is that the one that's going to have Erewhon?
No, that's the Kith Paddle Club. That's totally different.
Can you make friends with whoever is doing that?
With Ronnie, my neighbor? Yeah, a number of the Kith guys live in my building, so
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wait, so are we going to get to go and get Erewhon shakes?
Well, you don't have to join to get the Erewhon smoothies. You can Uber Eats them. Or you could go to LA. We could go to LA and do like a remote taping and get some if you want.
That seems important for us to do.
But look, people are finding new ways to connect and network, and these saunas are very social spaces.
Great social. Like, two of my best friends and I did a great trip to Istanbul a couple of years ago. And one afternoon we went to like one of the bath places, and it was hilarious. And we had such a good time, but we're really good friends. I didn't mind.
Right. And no one forced you to go there. And
exactly.
And I think as an executive, you may read this article and be like, oh, this is a cool idea. No. And I would just say it's probably not. And, you have to be mindful of the fact it's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable.
Just don't.
And they may not say it to you because they feel like pressure to go there and do it.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, if you want to network,
and then the amount of time it will take them to go to HR to say that they felt like excluded from.
Right.
Oh God, don't do it.
Right. So if you want to go network for yourself and meet people, that's fine and that's happening. But I wouldn't conduct a meeting in a sauna. I can't really recommend that, no matter how big this sauna is.
What?
No matter how big the sauna is. I mean, it's some of these
what it totally
50,
makes
60
me think
people.
of? The 80s. Like, don't you feel like such an 80s, 90s movie trope was like guys having meetings in like steam rooms or saunas?
Yeah, like the traders, going.
Exactly. Like they would go play squash and then have a schwitz.
Yeah. I mean, still people do the squash thing. I don't know how they have jobs, but they do it.
Learn squash. But that's a different topic.
Well, you should learn paddle, and then you can go to the...
Padel?
Yeah.
What?
I don't know. It's paddle, padel. I don't know. Well, we'll have to bring my brother on to discuss that. He's one of the best padel players in Miami, so he'll show you how it's done.
My God, you're really opening up and sharing things with me. That's so nice.
I mean, once we got Airport Pete onto the podcast, it's like we open up the floodgates.
Okay. So my next thing I think we should talk about is we didn't do I know we're supposed to do the overview, and we didn't today because we started with the dark topic. But interest rates got cut.
Yay.
Amazon and Bank of America are actually raising wages
Right.
for non-corporate employees, which is
Yeah.
good.
Entry level minimum wage.
Yes. Yet
Minimum
at the
wage.
same time, according to the Wall Street Journal, there's a new term for our economy. Do you want to deliver this new, very apt description of our economy?
The two-speed economy.
Yes.
It's called, where, you know, the rich, the wealthy people in our economy are advancing at incredible rates and becoming wealthier. And there's a lot of things contributing to that. And the lower income segment of our society is expanding and stagnant, frankly.
Yeah.
And, you know, to Amazon and Bank of America and any other really multi-trillion dollar company Amazon is now,
Yes.
for raising their base rate, minimum rate from 23 to 25. They could probably raise it to 50 and it wouldn't make a difference to them, and it would make a huge difference to their
but
workers.
it's still the fact that they are putting money towards that is a good thing.
I'm never going to criticize a company for raising wages, but
the income inequality issue is significant. Unemployment for black men and women is rising at a higher rate than for white Americans. A full percentage point increase up in April for black women's unemployment numbers. Wow. It is a result of anti-DEI policies, a lot of it.
Yeah. There's anti-DEI policies. There's obviously the impact of the tariffs on our economy. And again, we talked about this weeks ago, but it's been confirmed in discussions I've had with corporate leaders. You know, it's impossible to forecast and plan, and therefore you can't hire. And now we're seeing cutbacks as a result. And certainly, you know, this like total abandonment of DEI has contributed to these numbers and to this, you know, two-track economy or two-speed economy. And then other things.
I've never seen any numbers about how many people who are employed in working in the DEI space were people of color. I would imagine it over-indexed. And so when those jobs get taken away, it's probably disproportionately hurts communities of color.
Yeah, I mean, you know, not everyone who works in DEI is a person of color. I mean, it is pretty diverse itself. But yeah, likely.
This just keeps getting, the income inequality keeps getting worse. What's going to happen?
Well, I am sad to say it's just going to keep getting worse because this administration, it's not a priority for them. And also there's also a lot to be said that is beyond my expertise, but I can tell you on a very basic level, you know, the fastest growing and most prosperous companies, particularly in the AI space, are private, and they're not entering the public markets. And there's a huge expansion in private credit, which means that private equity firms, high net worth individuals, venture capital, all those people will be getting richer. And you know, people cannot participate in the growth of these companies through the public markets. So that's another thing. I mean, there's just so many different aspects to it. But, you know, let's see what happens with the rates coming down. I mean, who knows?
Were you surprised about that today?
No, not at all.
Well, I was. I mean, I probably hadn't been paying close enough attention or as closely as you, but it's been such a point of contention. I was a little bit surprised.
Yeah, I mean, the question was, would it be a quarter point? Would it be half a point? What impact? I mean, there was a legal aspect to it. Would Lisa Cook be still participating in the decision? And there was a decision that came down Monday night that said she still can work until this case makes it through. And the only dissenting vote on the quarter point decrease was the new appointee, Stephen Miran, who interestingly also has this conflict of interest where he has not given up his job in the White House. He's gone on leave and now is on the Fed where he's supposed to be independent, and the White House says that's not a problem. So, well, see how that turns out.
Okay. Wow.
Sorry, I didn't have a bright and sunny answer for you.
All right, you better have some really fun zeros and heroes. Like really fun.
Zeros and heroes. So I can't say my zeros fun. They usually aren't. Although I guess last week's was. My zero this week is Sherwin-Williams, the paint company that cut its K match program.
Ouch.
as part of, its corporate uncertainty and, poor performance. And I think that's just such a loser move, frankly.
Yeah. Why do you do that? That's a
Well,
rough place to go.
that is a rough place to go. And I'd love to know what cuts they made to executive compensation before they turned to that measure. But, we're coming through, the last 2 decades where companies cut pension plans and 401ks were the replacement, and 401k matches were the company commitments to retirement. And now if companies are going to go away from that just because there's some uncertainty in the economy, that's really bad news for the American worker. And I think there will be repercussions for Sherwin-Williams.
Unless everybody just sort of follows suit.
I don't think they will.
Okay.
Frankly.
That's good.
But, typically when you screw around with benefits like that, you end up with bigger problems on your hand from unions and other things. So we'll see what happens.
It's true.
Who's your zero?
R.I.P. Robert Redford. I guess that could have been a hero too. But just R.I.P. Robert Redford, and the film festival is no longer going to be in Sundance. And that it feels like really the end of an era. What was your favorite Robert Redford portrayal?
The Natural.
Oh, I knew you would say that. That was a good one.
Roy Hobbs. I mean, come on.
I think
Don't make me sing the song.
I gotta go All the President's Men as a nerdy reporter type.
Yeah, I mean, look, stylish guy, icon,
Icon.
I mean, classy.
Yeah. All right. And
Heroes.
My hero, I thoroughly enjoy the Emmy Awards on Sunday
so did
night.
I.
What?
So did I.
Thoroughly enjoy it. I don't know why. You know what, Nate Bargatze? People are giving you a hard time about your shtick.
For no reason.
Thought it was funny as hell. I loved it. I liked there being like a through line shtick. These days, like TV, like we're making TV right now. Like it's such a wide range of things. I think a through line was nice. I thought it was a joy to have a professional comedian on the stage who just seemed comfortable in their skin and just like, this is fun.
I'll challenge you on that point. I think one of his like real skills is being uncomfortable, or at least conveying that he's a little uncomfortable.
But in a funny way.
In a funny way.
There was no feeling of him being like, oh no, what if people don't like me? Like, he just seemed like, I get up in front of arenas and he doesn't give a all shit. The time.
Yeah, he definitely.
I loved it. And I loved from the standpoint of someone who really, both of my points today are about my affection for the American entertainment industry. And I love that The Pit won Oscars because it is a big show shot in Los Angeles with a big crew. Those people need jobs, and we need to be able to have more amazing, original, scripted shows shot here and shot in California, and I hope we see more.
Well, we've already had a debate in the early days of the Across the Bar podcast about whether The Pit is better than Severance, and I would say I still, having watched both shows and really enjoyed both shows, by the way, I would say Severance is still the better show for me. And I was, as much as I love Noah Wyle, I was really disappointed that Adam Scott, who basically portrayed two characters and like flipped between them, and I didn't
agree.
win the
Listen,
award. But
I love Adam Scott. I have had the deep honor of working with his wife on a couple projects.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
They are just incredible people. His wife, Naomi Scott, dream. And just such a talented producer.
And by the way, that show is shot throughout New York and New Jersey.
I know, which I love too.
So.
I love that. I told you that where the Adam Scott character lives, or the townhouse, is the townhouse development where my parents had a townhouse.
Yeah, that's wild.
I know, not yet.
But look, I agree. It was a feel-good show. I love the de-emphasis on the speeches. I know the critics were bummed about that because that's where the controversies happen. And even in the limited speeches, there were some controversies. But show like the Emmys with so many categories and so many shows, like the focus is really got to be on the awards themselves and the categories. So in my view, I thought it was great.
Good. All right. So what's your hero?
I have a repeat hero.
It's not going to be Oasis again, is it?
No. Please don't scare my mom. I didn't fly to Mexico City to see Oasis, although I wish I did.
Because your
It
mom
is.
knows where Oasis was playing in the last few days. Go on.
My mom knows everything. It is Pope Leo who came out this week and spoke against the. I think he was listening to our podcast, Laura. I really do, because he spoke out against the Elon Musk pay package. And, he talked about how if all we're focused on is value and dollar amounts, then something's wrong with our society in essence. And I thought that was, really
I'm
a
with you.
really nice
Go Pope
approach.
Leo.
And I love that Pope Leo is getting involved in workplace issues. I welcome his involvement.
Should we try to book him as a guest?
If he wants to be on the podcast, let's do it. I mean, I was reading this week that Peyton Manning has been writing him handwritten notes to try and get him to appear on Monday Night Football with him and Eli. And maybe we should do the same. Maybe we should send him like a video plea to be on our podcast. We could go to Rome and record there.
Hi,
I'm sure you'd
we're
be
a
happy to do
Persian
that.
and a Jew, and we would like
We're
for
your
the content
core,
to come on our podcast.
our core constituency right here. Totally
Amazing. All right. On that
amazing.
highbrow note, thank you as always to our producer, Sadie Rahbar. Thank you, Peter. This was some really good advice today.
Yeah. Thanks. Laura.
I hope people follow some of that good advice from the start.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. Thanks to Clifford Lane for our music, and thanks for everyone who's listening or watching across the bar. We'll see you next week.